Hey yo, what it do, y'all? It's No Name. Let's get right into it, y'all. Let me hit you with a question real quick, right? Why don't you take those shots? Why do you come up with these cool ideas and never put them to use? And if that cut a little deep, I'm sorry, right? And then this is a personal question as well, right? This is something that I battle with myself on a regular basis. It's like, man, you come up with these cool ideas and you don't do none with it. And, for some of you, when you hear this question, it might be based off of your real life, which that's what it's based on for me. But I also know that this used to be a question for me in my video gaming as well. And that's what we're going to talk about. Why are you coming up with cool ideas and then being unwilling to put your money where your mouth is and trust in yourself, trust in your understanding and your ideas and make it happen? Right. And, there's the usual answer of, but like, what if it doesn't work? Right. It's too risky. Da 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 da. I want to talk about how thinking like that when we're talking about a video game is very detrimental to like potential for growth. And admittedly, it is dangerous for growth even in real life, right? You should be willing to take shots. It's just, the difference, of course, in real life, when you take shots and you miss, it could be actually bad. You need to make sure you have a proper plan set up for that. So we're going to talk about, like managing your risk aversion, and then like you have to trust yourself, right? Coming up with an idea, you kind of have to trust that you can do it, plan a way that you will try to do it, and understand that you've got to give yourself no way out. Let's get into it. Quick plug to subscribe. Helps the channel out, especially with this new direction, which y'all have been really killing it with. So thank you so much for that. But also leave a comment down below on what you'll be starting in this upcoming PoE League if you're planning on playing it. And if you're not planning on playing it, I still want to know like what type of builds or ideas you've had in games that fit under this domain. Thank you. Back to the video. So you've come up with this cool idea. Let's talk in specifics for a moment just to make this easier for the analogies and whatnot, right? We're talking like the Path of Exile season that's coming up, for example, right? What if the build that you're cooking doesn't work, right? Because admittedly, this is what really inspired the idea. I've thought this many times over the various league releases and whatnot, even with myself sometimes, when I see people cooking up builds that they have no intention of really playing, whether that be, for content or for other reasons. Like I said, this is a wide reaching thought. And sometimes the answer is just, it's just for content, and it's okay, understandable, whatever. Content creation is content creation. But for a lot of people, it always ends up being like, well, what if it doesn't work? I don't want to risk my league starter. And my question to you always ends up being, what if it doesn't work? What if? So what? Because like that's risk, right? Sometimes things that you try don't work. And if the presence of a new thing isn't the impetus for you trying something new, I don't know what is, right? New stuff is what I would consider, honestly, to be the optimal time to try something new. It's not optimized. It's not perfected. It's incomplete. You are contributing to the process of completing. You are also at that point, like learning how to complete that thing. But I get where this comes from. One, again, like I said earlier, this has its parallels in real life. When we talk about, taking a risk on something new in, whatever industry you work in, trying to make a living, or you want to potentially launch into entrepreneurship or whatever it may be. This is a real parallel. The risk is scary. Risk can cost. Risk can disrupt. But this is a video game we're talking about, right? The most risk in the game's gonna do is, make it a little bit harder on you. I think even in my most messed up league start or build concept ever worked out, it was just like, dang, couple days down the drain is what it is. We try something new though. But I think, not even really, I feel pretty confident in asserting, so confident that I kind of want to make a separate video about it. And, maybe you should let me know if I should do this or not. But I want to talk about at some point how this era of information in gaming has really ruined the idea of risk taking and trying things out and being wrong, right? There's so much information out there that people are so scared that they are not interpreting all the information correctly, applying all the information correctly, and therefore don't want to be wrong. even if they're not being compared to anybody, right? For a lot of you who are watching this video, you don't make content. You're not really held responsible by anybody for the things that you create and put out. It's just for you. And if it's just for you, you should feel comfortable taking those risks because no one else depends on it but you, right? You get to do the cool thing. You get to see if it works. You get all the satisfaction when it pays off. And when it doesn't work, you can just go back to whatever you were comfortable with. We'll talk about that more later, right? Just note this thought of like, you should want to try new things when the new thing's here. And then you should stop getting in your way because it might not work. Okay, but like, you're telling me to get out of my way, but what if it doesn't work? What if it does? Do you not believe in yourself? Do you not think that you have an idea of what you're talking about? Honestly, maybe don't answer that, right? Like answer that to yourself, but really think about that before you just immediately go, of course I don't believe in myself, because this is not a therapy session. Right? That's not the point of this video. But I want you to understand that like if you had the idea, you had it for a reason, right? Can you even find concrete proof that it doesn't work, right? Or are you just, again, scared to fail? Are you scared to see that maybe you didn't know? But most importantly, if you didn't know, that's awesome, right? You'll learn something in the process. Trust in yourself to either know and be right and flourish in being right, or trust in yourself to be wrong and prepare to deal with what comes with being wrong, whatever that may be, right? Both halves of this are important. You can't just be right all the time and you can't just be wrong all the time. If you look through my video history on this channel and you look at the various builds that I've made in Path of Exile, not every one of those started as a good build. Some of them went through iterations that were poorly put together. Some of those honestly kind of released as versions that I think were not that greatly put together, but it's because I was showing what I had gotten to before I was depressed with it, such as like the Vol Stormcall character that I made in Settlers League. When I posted a video about it and I just decided I couldn't really figure out how I wanted to make it work beyond this point. And honestly, I didn't follow the framework that I'm giving you in this video, quite frankly, because I think I could have absolutely made it. I just wasn't motivated enough. And that's going to be a part of what I talk about later, but I wasn't motivated enough to push it through because I knew I had the idea and I knew the math made sense, but there was just something about it when I tested it that wasn't hitting right. But you got to trust yourself, trust your vision and your idea enough to want to get to that point. And I just didn't really trust myself like that. It happens to everybody, but you learn something, right? Whether or not it succeeds or fails, you learn stuff in the process. And even when it does succeed, you'll learn in interesting ways. Just food for thought, right? Trust yourself to have action ready, to be right with the idea, or to be ready to respond when the idea breaks. But what if it doesn't work? What's your plan for when it doesn't work, right? Like I said, you have to trust yourself to either be right or be ready to act when it doesn't work. What's your plan for when it fails? Do you have a plan for when it fails? Do you have an idea of where you're going to pivot this to, right? In the context of a league starter in PoE, that would be saying, is it that it doesn't work and it's because you did this one really janky thing that you should just do the normal way and it's fine? And it's a simple thing. Is it doesn't work and it's time for a quick respec to a different build to delay the concept till later when you have more currency? Is it taking a step back from the content you're trying to push and just do content where it does work in for the time being until you get better gear? What does it look like when your plan doesn't work, right? Or at least originally doesn't work. Plans usually come with contingency plans, right? And I firmly believe that failing to plan is effectively planning to fail, right? If you're not setting yourself up for as many possibilities as you reasonably can, reasonably is the important word here, then you're not really trying to make this work in the first place. You were never really about making it work. You came up with the idea, you were like, I'm going to do this thing. But if you didn't have your backup plans in order, you know, you weren't really trying to make it happen. But it's really interesting what I'm about to say next, because they sound like they're going to be directly in contradiction with one another. And I promise they're not, because to understand the idea behind a backup plans do not necessarily mean full direction pivots. They're always headed towards the same goal at the end, just slightly different routes. They talk about the idea that your path to success, whether it be gaming, real life, whatever it may be, it's not always a straight line, right? You'll start heading straight towards it. At least you think you're headed straight towards it, only to find out you went maybe 230 degrees the wrong way. So you got to turn a little bit. And then you start heading that way again, and then you got to turn again. And then you start heading the wrong way because you got forced the wrong way because you made a bad decision. Then you come back again. That process is a part of it. And you need to have a plan to help you still head towards wherever the end goal is. And that's why I said, don't worry, when you see the last one, when you hear the last part, it'll make sense and connect to the idea that you cannot fail to plan. You should have a plan. Have your contingencies lined up. Because the thing about what if it doesn't work? That question that you always ask yourself, that you ask of other people when they tell you to do the thing that you probably asked of me when I told you to stop pussyfooting around and do the cool thing that you want to do. The thing about that is that it has no other option than to work. This is delusional confidence. I will not shy away from that, right? This is the hardest part of this process. You need to have a delusional level of confidence in yourself, in your abilities, in your willpower to believe that sentence, that it has no other option but to work. But trust and believe that if you are willing and able to put in to practice, it has no other option but to work. You will be surprised how many things simply have no other option than to work. Remember, like I said earlier, you're still always going to be working towards the goal. Does the plan look a little rocky? Maybe it goes a little bit wayward, right? But it will end up there at the end. Maybe the original iteration of the plan was you doing boss carries, but then you find out that the build single target is not that good. So you pivot over to doing expedition or legion farming. And then that's how you get the currency to be able to get the gear upgraded. And now you can boss carry, and then you do boss carries, and then you get the money you need in order to push the upgrades that you need to get to the next step. No matter what you do, you're still acting in the interest of getting there. And the part of why I say no way out is because sometimes it could even be as drastic as something that looks like failure, that looks like running away, that looks like giving yourself another way out, but it is just the tactically sound decision. Sometimes you gotta, if the goal is to make a build work, but it's lacking currency, maybe it's a completely different build, one that you know works because you realize now that you've tried and failed, right? It's very important. You tried and failed to know that you need more currency to make this build work. So you switch builds to something that doesn't need the currency, prints the currency, it puts it back in, right? What is that like? It's like when you know you've got a really cool entrepreneurial idea, but you need to get some more bread from your job first before you can really put it into swing, right? There still is no way out. All of your actions lead to the main goal. It's not even a side quest. It's not even a distraction. It's not like you halted progress. You just went a different direction on the road, because when you planned out the road, it was a straight shot. And when you started driving down the highway, it was winding like crazy. And that's all I've got for you. You have to trust yourself and your ability to come up with ideas. And then you have to put that into practice. And you have to trust yourself and plan for how you will adapt. You need to be, and what sometimes the plan may be completely off of what you thought it was going to be. The exercise of failing in this aspect is just as important as getting it right sometimes. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other, sometimes it's both. But if you want to do a new cool thing, this is what it takes, right? And again, this isn't talking about a Path of Exile league, but understand you can apply this to so many other games, so many other parts of your life, quite frankly. And most importantly, you can stop wasting my time showing POBs for things that you have no intention of testing. This is not aimed again at anyone in particular showing me POBs and being like, yeah, I had this idea. I'm not going to play it though. But understand that you could actually have this idea and then go through with it. And instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'm not going to play it because I don't think it'll actually work and I'm too scared. Like, just do it. Put some weight behind it. Make it happen. You know, go along for the ride. It's a roller coaster. Enjoy yourself. Now, if you rock with this video, you know, like, comment, subscribe, like, interact with the video really helps. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of what we do here. If you want to see even more of what I do, I have a Twitch and a Discord. And speaking of Path of Exile, throughout this video, of course, I will be streaming during the league start. So that'll be, you know, in my description. League start time on Friday, all that great stuff. Thanks for tuning in and watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.